Abby and Chris Cool School Friends. By Kenny's Corner 2014. Notes not included in the original story. Hello everyone, it's Kenny from Kenny's Corner 2014. The following is a very awesome realistic fiction story I started writing in February of this year. I have the story saved on the computer and also in braille. The story is about 99% edited. There are very few mistakes. For example, I don't know if this is how this rule works, but in some parts of the story, I say Chris' parents instead of Chris's parents. I am not sure which is right. And also the punctuation marks and quotation marks may be in the wrong order a few times. Otherwise the story is complete and is so amazing. I am hoping to put it in a contest to see if I could win, but I figured why not share it with my fans first. For some reason, some of my videos the comments work, in others they don't work. If comments work on this video, make sure to leave a comment about what you think. Let's get 5 likes on this video. Thanks and enjoy the story. Also it is read by this text-to-speech voice, so it might even make mistakes. About this book, in this story a young boy named Chris and his family moved to the small town of Rockstar. Chris is blind in his right eye and he also suffers from a face disorder. His parents decided to homeschool him because they thought that the other kids would make fun of him. Now that his parents are letting him go to a real school, Chris will have many challenges to overcome. Can Chris fit in with the other kids at his new school? Can Chris also make friends? Find out in this adventure-filled story. Abby and Chris Cool School Friends. It was a dark, stormy night. Ruby and Bob were at the hospital. They were about to meet their son Chris. The doctor helped Ruby and Chris was born. The doctor got a sad look on his face. "I will be right back," said the doctor. He took the crying baby with him to a different room. He examined the poor baby's face. He had scratches and bruises all over his face. "What do I even say?" said the doctor. "I have been in practice for over 14 years and I have never seen anything like this." After what felt like 2 hours the doctor came back. He let Ruby hold the soft crying baby. "Your son is not doing well," said the doctor. "I don't think that he will make it past the night." "What?" screamed Ruby in a scared voice. "Well, let's consider the facts," said the doctor. "He is completely blind in his right eye, he doesn't have much vision in his left eye either, and his face is really messed up." "What are we going to do?" asked Ruby. "I don't know yet," said the doctor. Chris made it past the night with no problem. He slowly grew up. He never let his vision get in his way. Chris was always such a happy and playful child. Growing up, Chris was an only child. He lived in a smaller-sized house with his parents. His parents didn't know what it would be like to raise a child with a disability, but they were scared and excited at the same time. When Chris was 6 years old, he and his family had to move. This was due to a bad storm. So Chris and his family decided to move to the small town of Rockstar. His parents also decided when it was time for Chris to go to school, that for the time being they would homeschool him. They decided to do this because they thought the other kids would make fun of Chris because of his disabilities. Chris would always bug his parents to let him go to a real school, but the answer was always no. Chris' parents were nice but strict about what he could do because they didn't want him to get hurt. A few weeks after Chris turned 10 years old, his parents finally agreed to let Chris go to a real school. Chris was so excited, but his parents Ruby and Bob were skeptical. On his first day, Chris and his parents got into their old car. It had many scratches on it and a few paint chips. They had been saving up money to buy the car they had been eyeing. They almost had enough for it. When they arrived at the school, they walked to the front door. The school was giant and so shiny. His parents held the door and Chris walked inside. They all waved goodbye and the door shut with a crash. So Chris' first day of 4th grade would now begin. Chris was facing the door to the front office. He opened the door. Bang. The door shut. Chris heard a voice say, "Welcome to the Rockstar Elementary School. I'm Ms. Smith." Chris walked forward. He found a wooden table with his cane. "Hi, Miss Smith," said Chris. Ms. Smith replied, "We have been expecting you. Would you like me to help you find your class?" "I think I can find it," said Chris. "Are you sure?" asked Ms. Smith. "After all, this is your first day here." "What is the classroom number?" asked Chris. Ms. Smith started typing on her computer. Chris could hear the clicking sounds the keyboard made and the sound of the other kids coming from the hallway. "You need to head to Mrs. Brown's class, number 301, said Ms. Smith. "Got it?" replied Chris. Chris reached for the wiggly doorknob. Ms. Smith said, "Let me or Principal Dave know if you have any problems or need help with anything." "Thanks," said Chris. Chris opened the door, walked out and shut it with a bang. He slowly walked down the giant hallway. He tapped his cane along the hard floor. Chris read the braille signs on the walls. "Let's see here," he said. 293, 296, 298, aha. He said 301. He felt for the doorknob. He felt the wooden texture of the door. He opened the door. He could already hear Mrs. Brown talking at the front of the classroom. He shut the door. Mrs. Brown paused mid-sentence and turned her attention to Chris. "Class, this is our new student here at our school, Chris." "Hi guys," said Chris in a shy voice. Out of nowhere the class turned into a storm of mean comments about Chris. "He's so ugly. Look at his face. Wow, that's the new student." "Settle down class," said Mrs. Brown. "Anyway, Chris, it is so nice to meet you. You are my first blind student." Chris introduced himself and got to meet the rest of the class. But one of the kids was Ryan, the biggest school bully. When it was his turn, he said, "Hey Chris, you're ugly." "Principal Dave's office now," replied Mrs. Brown. "Sorry about that, Chris. That's Ryan, the biggest school bully of all time." "No, I'm not," said Ryan in a smug voice. "I said Principal Dave's office now," insisted Mrs. Brown. Then she added, "Sorry about that, Chris, Ryan is just so bad. He gets in trouble almost every other day." No one really seemed to like Chris. He tried talking to the other students, but no one would really talk to him. The day went by quickly and it became time for recess. At recess, Chris met a girl named Abby. They talked and played together for the whole 30 minutes, which to them felt like 15 minutes. They even sat together at lunch. Abby was really smart, she was especially great with math. Her grades were great as well. Another great thing about Abby was she was really nice. Anytime someone would make fun of Chris, Abby would stand up for him. The day was just going so fast. Chris got picked on by a group of kids at the end of the day, but he didn't let them make him sad or cry. Ding! The school bell rang. The other kids ran in the hallway. Chris made his way to his bus, which he would ride to and from school every day after. When Chris got home, he told his parents about his adventure-filled day. He also told his parents about how he got picked on and didn't let those other kids get in his way. So Chris' parents let him stay in that school. Chris' parents even let Abby stay over for sleepovers, games, and more. Each day of school was like a new adventure to Chris. Chris already knew what his dream job would be. He wanted to become a vision teacher. He went through elementary school and went to the Rockstar Middle School. Chris was more well known there. Chris was getting really smart just like Abby. Everyone knew not to mess with Abby or Chris, because they knew they would be in big trouble if they did. Abby and Chris went on to high school. They zoomed through it like it was never even real. Chris went to college to live out his dream job of becoming a vision teacher. He was a vision teacher for many years. After Chris had been teaching for about 3 years, Abby and Chris decided to live together. They moved into a small 1-bathroom 2-bedroom house. After Chris had been teaching for 5 years, Abby and Chris decided to get married. It was one of the best moments of their lives. Chris was so happy to have a great job that everyone knew him at. Chris was also so happy to have such a kind, caring wife. But most importantly, Chris was so happy that he stayed the same, smart, loving, kind, and most importantly, never, ever letting his vision get in his way. Teachers, school bullies, other kids and adults all learned great lessons from Chris. Don't give up. Don't let others get in your way. Be who you want to be. Most importantly, stay happy and healthy. Chris and Abby even went on to raise their own 2 kids. Abby and Chris treated their 2 sons Robbie and Ricky the same way their parents treated them, kind and caring and always there for each other. Abby and Chris, cool school friends.